Everyone, this is it. The big one. The review I've been planning and saving ever since I started my channel in January. The review, or the concept of the review rather, that brought back my passion for the format and inevitably brought me to my switch here to YouTube. The album that blew me off my feet, climbed to the very top of my favorite albums list, and took me down a road of musical evolution that led to me hearing at least 50 albums, which in turn rejuvenated my passion for music and albums as a whole. A road that inspired me to begin playing the guitar, write my own songs, and pursue the hobby of musicianship. Ladies and gentlemen, today, for the album's 25th anniversary, we are here to cover Liz Phair's astounding debut album, Exile In Guyville. This video will be a comprehensive analysis, breakdown, review of the album, and somewhat of an outlet of my appreciation of this album. Without any further ado, let's begin. In 1992, 1 year after she created her now famous girly sound cassettes, Liz Phair was making a professional attempt to recreate them. Associating herself with the independent scenes of Chicago, specifically the scene in Wicker Park, she began making friends with bands such as Urge Overkill, and people such as Brad Wood and John Henderson. After she asked Wood which indie record label she should apply for, he suggested the then relatively new Matador Records. After she called the label's owner, Gerard Cosloy, he made a multi-thousand-dollar deal with Phair, commissioning one album. The album she sent to them, with the help of Wood, engineer guitarist Casey Rice, and others, was Exile In Guyville, her 18-track debut that attracted critics' attention almost immediately after its release. 25 years later, its influence is still being felt by both women and men alike, myself included. And now that we've got the mostly essential backstory out of the way, let's get into the review and what I have to say about it. Exile In Guyville is one of many albums which grounds its concept in someone else's work. Similar to albums such as The Downward Spiral by Nine Inch Nails, which sees itself mirroring the paranoia and existential dread of albums like Pink Floyd's The Wall and David Bowie's Low, Guyville bases its concept off of the Rolling Stones' 1972 masterpiece, Exile on Main Street, seen most visibly by the similarity in the album names. Phair has gone on record multiple times stating that the album is a response record, meaning that each song on Guyville corresponds to a song on Main Street. She has even stated that she wrote dissertations and multiple papers connecting her songs to the Stone album, although it is now believed these papers have been long lost. Having listened to both albums myself, I can see, in certain areas, where these theories were drawn, and where Phair got her inspirations from, although we really have to analyze the actual concept of Guyville to understand where these connections come from. The concept of the album is rooted in one singular thing. Phair is discontent with the sexist independent scene of Chicago in the early 1990s. For many of the acts scrounging around at the scene at the time, women were viewed as being lesser than men, in the sense that the men of the scene didn't believe that women could do what they were doing, among other things. This is especially apparent on the album in songs like Help Me Mary, where Phair laments about how she's lost her home to thieves who bully the stereo, drink, leave suspicious things in the sink, and make rude remarks about her. See what I mean now? Phair stated that all she wanted to do was to show the men of the scene what she and other women were capable of, and this song is just a perfect example of that. The titular Guyville was derived from the Urge Overkill EP, Stull, specifically its last track, Goodbye to Guyville. The members of Urge, specifically Nash Cato, had been friends with Phair up to the album's release, and the group was integral into the creation of the album. For example, Cato was responsible for the idea of the album cover, which shows Phair wearing a large coat, partially flashing her breast to the camera. I can only imagine if something like that would fly nowadays. Anyway, let's actually start covering the album itself. Opening track 6'1" is driven by a jangly, upbeat guitar riff, with lyrics spurred from Phair's experience with men who are in it for the sex and nothing more, nothing less. To say that this song helps lay the ground for the album and its concept is an understatement. It's one of Phair's strongest tracks as a songwriter and a guitar player, and fits amazingly well as an opening track. The aforementioned Help Me Mary is the album's second track, and it's about the intimidation from the frontrunners of the Chicago indie scene, one of the few tracks that Phair has attributed to being taken from personal experience. Contrary to popular belief, Exile In Guyville is not a concept album written from experience, but is merely an album written from the perspective of someone in the album itself. I know I keep coming back to this album for comparisons with concept records, but it's only due to how well-rounded it is. But Nine Inch Nails' The Downward Spiral is yet another example of a concept album telling a story that seems personal but was not entirely. Moving on to our third song, Glory is a much quieter track, centering around Phair's quiet yet harsh vocals and her simplistic yet hypnotic guitar work. The track clocks in at exactly 90 seconds and tells the story of a woman being seen by a man as something more than a sexual object. I think anyway. There are some songs on this album that are extremely lyrically cryptic. This is one of them. Track 4, Dance of the Seven Veils, is where I tend to pinpoint the beginning of the album's central storyline, with lyrics telling the tale of our protagonist marrying Johnny, one of the grungy rock dudes that she has shown her displeasure for. She pleads with him to quit the business being the rock world, due to how much it annoys her, or I'd even go as far as to say it makes her angry. She laments about wanting to roll him up in plastic, pump him full of lead, and beat him to a pulp. Phair also experiments with innocent perversion here, This is one of 2 songs that I've ever listened to which uses one of the most taboo swear words.
I only ask because I'm a real cunt in spring.
It's a tale of submission and self-deprecation, and it is yet another core example of Phair's prowess as a multi-talented songwriter. Never Said, the lead single of the album, follows Veils and changes the pace and tone of the album from that of a somber tone to a more upbeat one. The peppy guitars and drums encapsulate Phair's playfully sarcastic vocals, stating fervently to her male partner that she never said nothing, and that any of this gossip that's caused him to turn on her is all a ruse. For a long time, this is my favorite song on the album. It just has this vibe to it where it's accessible and catchy, yet also very amazing. Although she would later take pop music head-on 10 years after Exile, Never Said is an example of pop rock done right, and Exile as a whole can also contend as a perfect example of this as well. Soapstar Joe, one of the tracks culled from Phair's Girly Sound home cassettes, is one of the most conceptual of the record. Telling the story of one of the guys with the capital G that titular Ville is named for, we learn more about these people, the people seeking fame and recognition, that have captivated her attention. Her visualization of this guy might catch people by surprise compared to how the people in the Chicago indie scene typically looked. Like grunge outcasts, right? No. The man that Phair gives visualization for seems more like a redneck to me than a douchebag early 90s full of himself hipster looking for fame. Thinning hair, aftershave, driving a pickup truck, wearing blue jeans. When she said that her vision of Guyville came from a fictional small town that would be situated in rural Kentucky, she wasn't kidding. This is one of the songs on the album that I haven't paid the most attention to, along with Glory. It's not a bad song by any means, but it never finds itself in any of my listening sessions outside of a full album listen, and remarkably, nor does the Girly Sound version. Explain It to Me, track 7, is one of the many songs from this album in Phair's entire catalog that resonated with me from day one. In fact, it's the primary song, along with Tool's Lateralis, that inspired me to pick up the guitar and begin learning how to play. It captivated me that much. Anyway, let's talk about the song. Leading in with a watery, dream pop-esque guitar, complementing Phair's continuously trademark monotone vocals, which during the chorus harmonize to what seems to be a triple layered mix. It's really fascinating. The song, from what I can gather, follows the guy of Soapstar Joe, realizing that the fame and fortune that he so desires isn't coming to him, yet he doesn't know why. Like there's something holding him back. Phair, or rather Phair's character, takes this opportunity to console him, sort of. I don't necessarily know how to describe it. It's a sensitive song for both parties and displays Liz Phair as some of her brightest and most emotional songwriting. Taking an incredibly sudden turn from emotionally comforting to emotionally shattering, Canary leads its way in with a hypnotic piano section. In fact, piano is all that's to be heard on Canary. No fuzzy lo-fi guitars to be heard here. One of the many tracks that help cement Exile as a feminist landmark, Phair's lead protagonist laments her bleak and controlled lifestyle, making a metaphor for herself as a caged animal of sorts, being told what to do by the man and to never step out of line. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm getting some serious Pink Floyd vibes right about now. She sounds emotionally empty, almost like she wants to cry, but there's no tears left for her to let out. This depressed, emotionally crippled image of Phair comes back later on in the record, more than once might I add, but Canary is the true beginning of her internal monologues, bringing this vulnerable, shameless image above the surface and into fruition. Finding ourselves at the end of side 2 of the album, we waltz our way from Canary's heartbreaking honesty into a much more lighthearted yet still incredibly honest and real track. Mesmerizing is yet another Phair classic that stemmed from the real issues that she was facing from the scene at the time, pinpointed by her stinging lyric in the chorus.
I wanna be mesmerizing too.
2? Yes, 2. Phair used this track as a way to say exactly what she's been trying to say since the start. She's saying, in all regards, I want to show you and everyone else who can hear me that I'm capable of so much more than you think, and just because I'm a woman doesn't even come close to stopping that. Even if I was to mirror the album's content from that of a male perspective, the song still manages to get its point across, and that's what I like about Exile so much as a concept album. It's open-ended and relatable for anyone of either gender. Sure, it might not be relatable for men down to the wire, but there is still a lot that can be connected for both men and women from the experience.